Welcome to the School of Laughs podcast, brought to you by schooloflaughs.com. Whether you're an aspiring comedian, a part-time pro, or a speaker who wants to become funnier, this is the podcast for you. We'll break down tools, tips, and techniques to help you get bigger, better, and more bookable. And now, here's the show.
Welcome to the podcast. Rick Roberts here. Hope you're doing well wherever you're at, doing whatever it is you're doing. Hey, today I've got a good friend of mine, Chester Goad, on the podcast. Chester is a multi-talented guy. He's an actor, does a podcast, and also does comedy. And I kind of met him through a podcast conference many years ago. We talk about that. And we talk about how he's gotten into comedy, found his own opportunities. And we dig in a little bit to what you put into your website when you're first starting out, and how you kind of curate your own content to show people you're funny on and off the stage. So it's a great listen. I think you're going to like Chester a lot. You can find him online at chesterg.com and learn more about him if you want to look at his website as you're listening to the episode. They want to say thanks to our Patreon sponsor for this episode. It's Bill Conger. Bill, hope you're doing well, and thanks for continuing to sponsor the podcast. And a shout out to our newest member of the Club 52 Patreon support team. It is Mark Staggs. Mark, looking forward to learning more about you and maybe catching you on one of these upcoming Zoom calls, which we will have very soon. Keep an eye out if you're a Club 52 member for our Zoom quarterly hangout, which will be a big time hangout. We're going to get a lot of stuff done on this one because I think we're overdue, and I want to make it up to everybody that is in Club 52. So if you've hung on this long, you'll get a bonus reward on this upcoming Club 52 hangout. More on that in the email. Right now, though, let's get into this episode with Chester Goad. I'm here with Chester Goad, I hope. Are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me, Rick? Can you hear me over there?
I hear you, and I see the signal bouncing. And Chester was kind enough to join me for a second time on the podcast. The first one, the red dot was blinking. It said recording. And then when I went to get it off of the cloud, it wasn't there. So I'm saving it to my local computer this time. And hopefully Zoom works great. And if not, Chester can come over here and beat me. And just like, that's enough of my time, dude. But
Third time's a charm.
Right. Yeah, we have to do it in person if it doesn't work this time, which is also fine, but hopefully we get it down. And I guess they won't hear this if it's not going. So there you go.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, man, thanks again for carving out some time. We did talk the last time, which it was not recorded, just kind of about your comedy journey, where you're coming at it from.
Yeah. And,
in a nutshell, I met Chester, I want to say when we did the big podcast conference at Third Coast with David Hooper.
Yep.
And so that would have been a few years ago. And he was like kind of kicking the tires on a bunch of different things. And in the back of his head, he was thinking about doing some stand-up. And then boom, here we are, however many years later, just a handful. And Chester does hosting a venue. So tell us about how you got that opportunity. Because a lot of comics say, where do I start if I don't have any experience? You were in that same boat, and we talked about it, and you found a place that was just right.
Absolutely. Well, one of the nuggets of wisdom of yours, Rick, had been, if you're not able to find opportunities, you need to kind of make opportunities, and you need to even have to look at your local community. And so that's what I did. Was there's a venue in the town where I live. It's actually called Grinder House Coffee, and they're primarily, it's a coffee shop by day, and it's a music venue at night. They have ticketed events, and they have some great artists come through there. People from like American Idol, The Voice, and people from the Grand Ole Opry. I mean, there's just a big variety of people, indie artists, and so forth. And so hearing you in the back of my mind as I was having coffee one day, I talked with the owners, who are awesome, Asa and Angela at the Grinder House. And I just said, what if there was somebody that was, hosting your events who did some comedy, or, maybe occasionally did some features and things like that. And man, they were all for it. They're very supportive of local artists of all kinds. And so they were like, anytime you want to go up, you go up, and we'll let you cut your teeth with your comedy performance here. And I'm telling you, it was great. It's an interesting dynamic. I think I've talked to you about this before, because when something is primarily a music venue, the people haven't bought tickets to a comedy event. And so, man, it was hard. When we say cut teeth, it was some difficult teething over there at the Grinder House, because, people didn't pay for a ticket to come and laugh. And so you really have to work at it, and you're happy for any laugh that you can get, the one way far back in the back, whatever. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. Any interaction at all in those types of situations is a big victory, because you've gained their respect and attention, and certainly they didn't expect that. I remember going into sports bars, and they would, have the ball games on, then start the open mic or the real comedy show where they're actually paying comics right there. And sometimes they would shut down the pool table for a minute, and people get all irate. Then you'd hear people racking and cracking right there when you're doing your show. Right, but when you were able to draw them in, then more people are like, well, maybe we should pay attention to this guy too. So it's a great way to cut your teeth. And you've done multiple shows there. The other great thing about the venue too is tell them about the video setup they have.
Oh yeah, no, they have really gone all out. They were designated on Tennessee's Music and Art Pathway, which is kind of like the Bluebird Cafe, and a lot of other venues are on that, which means you're listed as it makes you more legit, I guess, in the entertainment world, as kind of one of those off the beaten path places that people need to visit or get a ticket and go see. And so they have really put they've invested a lot into that, and it's streamed out all over the world, and it's a super great venue. And you were talking about getting paid. I get paid mostly there in like meals, gift certificates, coffee, whatever. I mean, they have been so generous and so great. And I will say, if you gauge it by the people who come in and by the owners and even the other artists that come back around after a little while, it's been a very positive experience. And like even artists that have performed there will say, "Oh, I would love to have him, come back and and be a part of that." And we've built some relationships across the board, not only with the people who work at Grinder House, but the artists that filter through there. So that's been really nice.
That's great. And I would add too, if anybody's listening and thinking about doing this, the key words there was Chester had a conversation with the owners and said, "I can do this for you. It'd be great for me if I can just get some time up there." He didn't come in and go, "Man, if you got an extra $150 laying around, I'll open the show," and none of that kind of stuff. He knew that it was a starting point, and they knew it was a starting point, and it was mutually agreeable and mutually beneficial. So, because I talk to comics, I get emails every week from somebody. I've done 6 open mics. When do I get paid for this? Well, you'll get paid when somebody says, "Hey, this guy's worth paying." And
absolutely.
And in the meantime, you're in front of other people. You're meeting musicians from different parts of the country, definitely out-of-staters as well. So you're starting that word of mouth, which helps get your name out there.
Yeah, and another local venue that I did there for a while was the Palace Theater, which is the historic theater, one of those old historic theaters, and it's a great venue. It's been renovated and remodeled through the years. It is an awesome venue, and again, all sorts of artists come through there, and they do have some comedians and things, but they do regular open mics. And it's mostly like variety show kind of thing where anybody comes out. But I really, between Grinder House and the Palace Theater, just doing local venues like that, it's been great. And some of the hardest crowds are local folk. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think if you're local and they're local, they're skeptical. You have to prove yourself. But if you're from out of town and they're local, they're like, "Well, this guy came from out of town, must be pretty good." So like you're never a celebrity in your own town. That's definitely a showbiz phrase that's been true for a long time. So yeah, when you are, "Hey, this guy's from down the street," they're like, "Well, I guess I'm from down the street too."
Right. A lot of my comedy has come from just the local community there from where I live too. Some of the bits that we've worked on together, some of the coaching that you've helped me with, one of my favorite bits is this thrift store bit. And it's true. We got thrift stores all over the place, and I sort of play off on all that. It's probably one of my most popular things that I do.
Yeah, we got a thrift store for everybody down in Crossville. We do. We got those fancy upscale ones, elite repeats. The religious ones like Second Chance and Eternal Value. The plus size women's thrift store just opened. It's called 3 Times a Lady. It's divided in 3 sections. Once, twice, 3 times a lady. That's right.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that's cool about that is people know it's real. You don't have to create some bizarre scenario. Like that, I think it's another mistake a lot of comics make when they first start is they're like, I've got to find the weirdest thing to talk about ever. And, you can do that, but then the punchline has to be weirder than the setup.
Right.
One of the very few people I've ever seen pull it off, Rob Schneider, like he used to have these crazy bits about like opening a refrigerator. There's a tiny Elvis on the top shelf singing to him. It's like, where do you go from there? But he found a way to go from there. But for most of us, talk about what you know, what you see. And for me, I always think it's a great thing, first, second, third joke, to make a connection with the audience as early as you can so they know that, oh, this guy understands us.
100%.
Exactly what that thrift store bit does for you. It's like, oh, this guy, he's around. He knows all the places. He's got some ideas for some other ones.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because everywhere I go and I share that, I had a couple of friends who were like, do you think that'll play well other places? And so I got real skeptical of myself, like, all right, is this going to be funny? And people relate to thrift stores. I mean, I've had people literally bring me clothes after a performance, hey, you made me think of this. I want to give you this, so that's been kind of fun.
Well, you start doing jokes about Jaguars.
No, yeah, no joke.
Well, so from the Lion King.
Yeah. Pennsylvania. I don't know what they're saying. But practically speaking, so when you're like me and you're newer on the scene, what would you say is the best way to connect with other opportunities? Like, where do you find them? I mean, is it through the clubs or the venue specifically? Is it all relationship based? Is it word of mouth, connections with other stand-up comics? I mean, where does it come from?
Yeah, it comes a little bit from all of those, and it comes slower than you want it to always.
Yeah.
But there'll be a time where you look back and go, man, look at all the things that happened. Like every year I look back and go, what did I not think was going to happen? And I look back and, well, I didn't know I was going to be in a movie, didn't know I was going to do a commercial, didn't know I was going to do this.
Yeah.
But those opportunities come. And same thing with when you're first starting, little conversations you have off stage with people. So, if you connect with them, and first off, if you just don't talk about yourself, but you ask them about themselves, people will remember who they got to talk to and talk a lot to more than who they listen to. Mm-hmm. And I've been guilty of being the guy that's talked somebody's ear off and not learned one thing about the other party. But when I've intentionally leaned in and asked them, like, what's your comedy scene like? And what's this like? And how do you do that? They start, not only do they get to talk a lot, which makes them feel good and like an expert, but they also start to kind of reveal little secrets. And, oh, yeah, we got this once a month show that we do. And heck, if you're ever around, you ought to come and do it, Mm-hmm. And you never had to ask, can I come do a comedy show in your scene? You're just asking what their scene is like.
Yes.
So with all the comics you crisscross past, that's one thing. And then always offering up whatever you have. I mean, you might say, hey, I don't know what your schedule is, but if you're ever out in my neck of the woods and you want to pop in Grinder House when I'm doing a set, I'll give you 5 of my minutes to get up there, and maybe I can even get the owners to give you a quick video from your set. Oh,
I think that's a great point. Being generous with your own time, because that probably will come back around. I'm really grateful for like you encouraged me to do the Clean Comedy Challenge. And, if I get anything from that, the encouragement and just the experience of being around other people who are pursuing the same stuff, that's really meaningful. But, having the opportunity and, I went up there, I didn't even make it to the finals or anything like that. And so you kind of walk away with that and you're like, oh, I must not be nearly as funny, or I can't tickle an audience or, whatever. And then,
but however,
yeah. And
little did you know, the owners were watching, right?
Yeah, people were watching. And so like, Dennis Tooley and Steve Rivera, they're awesome up there at Gutty's. And I love what they're doing. To me, it's really special what they're trying to do with the venue that they have. And so I want to support them as well. And out of the blue, I get this, message, hey, would you like to feature? And that, I mean, it made my day. It made my month. It was, you take not hearing someone say, would you like to come, as you're not funny or you're not worthy or whatever. And so when somebody does get generous with their time or whatever, it gives you a lot of energy.
Yeah. I think it's smart. I think when we talked before you went up there, I said, just go up there and have fun.
Yes.
And meet people. And if anything else comes out of it, great. Mm-hmm. And even though the offer to come up and feature didn't come up like right where you're on site.
Yeah.
I think your attitude and your likability and your cleanliness of your show, all that's shown through. So when they after the event, we're like, man, who should we have come back up? Your name was right there at the top of the list. So I think that's really cool. And again, it puts you in an Indianapolis area, Greenwood, which is a whole different place than you've been before. So that's
absolutely
more comics. Not everybody obviously was from Indy that did the Clean Comedy Challenge, but there were a few. So a few comics that live up that way now, and you get to meet Jeff Jenna, right?
Yeah, I met all those folks. Yeah,
some other great comics.
All of those. Yeah, great people, great experience. And I mean, I wouldn't take anything for it. It was really cool. So, taking it kind of a step further, if you are an emerging, newbie, emerging,
tadpole comedian.
Yeah, when you're brand new, how do you promote yourself? Like the promotion side of it. I mean, people are like, yeah, well, never heard of you.
Yeah. It's tricky. There's obviously some things that are available now that weren't when I first started, like the Facebook groups and those kinds of things, making connections that way. But, the two things clubs like are comics who do what they're supposed to do, just follow the basic rules. If you're emceeing, do the announcement, all those things. But if you can get anybody extra in the seats when you're an MC or a feature act, it's huge bonus points. And so, if we go back in time and say, okay, Chester's in Indianapolis for 2 nights or 3 nights or whatever it was when you did your feature set, how can you collect some email or contact information from those people? Because they've already seen you. And when you come back, you can shoot them a quick email and go, hey, I'm coming back. I got new material. Can't wait to see you guys. And a few of those people show up. You could even talk to the club about giving you a special code when they make reservations. Like,
oh, that's great. I didn't know
so they know that, hey, 10 people signed up with the Chester code. Chester got 10 people in here at whatever
the Chester Goad code.
Yeah, the Goad code. So Chester generated an extra $200 for the club or whatever it might be. Well,
but that brings up a really good point though, Rick, because when I was up there, I featured for Jay Stevens, and he was really a lot of fun. And one of the things that he did at the end of the show, he had merch and and all that kind of thing, but he actually had these little cards that had a QR code that had one of his jokes, it was attached to one of his jokes. And then on the other side, it had his social media. And he was like, look, you don't have to buy anything from me. He's like, you didn't necessarily come here to buy anything. I've got it if you'd like it. But if you will just take this card, and just go like something or share it on social media, that would mean the world to me, and so I was thinking, oh man, I need one of those. And then at the end of the show, there were 3 couples that came out that were like, hey, so where's your stuff? And I'm like, don't have any of that there stuff.
No, but that's a great point. And, he's smart to do that. And then, you don't know what you don't know. So you saw that and you're like, this is something I should do, even if it just has my website, my phone number, and my name on it. Anything else that they can get to. And I think there are even like sites, I can't remember the name of it, but it might be allmystuff.com or something, but it gives you basically a page. And when people scan the code or hit that URL, it just has every way to connect with you listed in one spot.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. So what did I do that next week, Rick? I went and got me some business cards, and they're not fancy. They were cheap, but it has my social media, has the website on it, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And I also has something on it that you suggested a long time ago. I put my Venmo on there. I put my Venmo because I'm like, okay, I don't have any merch right now, but if somebody wants to, tip me, if they think something was funny or they want to support me because I do clean comedy or, those kind of things, that I'm going to give them an opportunity to do that. There's no pressure, but it's there,
Yeah, one of the best. That's great, because one of the best pieces of advice I ever got early on in comedy was, and I can't remember who gave it to me. It was a headliner. They said, "Make it easy for people to give you money."
Yeah.
And my first real business card that I had, oddly enough, had a little sheriff's badge on it that I bought, hundreds and hundreds for $10 or whatever. And so I took a hole puncher, punched a hole in the business card, put the little deputy badge on there, had my number, and sold my business card after the shows for $1 a piece.
No, really?
Yeah, because I do my little Barney Fife impression, and then people would buy the thing. They're like, yeah, I'll buy a badge, help you out. And I'd sell $30-$50 worth as an MC, every weekend. So yeah, you want to make it easier for people to give you. So Venmo, a tip jar type thing on the Venmo is great. But now I need to have something to pass off until I get my catchphrase T-shirt or whatever it might be that you
Yeah. It's like, when is the catchphrase going to come? I'm waiting for that one thing. It may have something to do with the thrift store. I mean, I don't know. It could have something to do with something like that. But
it could. You know what? I'll say this just because I've had the conversation with somebody about a comic who makes, I think they have 4 or 5 different T-shirts with catchphrases on it from bits that don't work. They thought of the catchphrase first and went ahead and got the T-shirts made up thinking it was going to stick, and it hasn't. So you're better off waiting until it's super obvious that this is what people want.
Yeah.
Than to say, I'm going to do this and make sure it sticks. The audience will be the judge of that.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's a really great point. So in promoting yourself, like as a part of that, what do you do when you feel like, okay, I've got good positive content, I've had some opportunities, I feel like I've grown, I've poured myself into coaching and all the different stuff, and I feel like I'm okay, I just need more opportunities, but you don't have a ton of like demo reel or footage and things like that. So that's social proof. I've heard, like I hear from some people, oh, you gotta use what you have. And then I hear on the other side people saying, you really need to make sure that stuff is quality footage, because if you put anything out there that's poor quality, it's just going to kill you before you ever even get started. So where do you fall on that?
Well, here's the phrase that pays.
All right, give it to me.
If it's not good, if what you have is not good, people aren't going to watch it, and nobody will share it, so it doesn't go viral.
Right.
It doesn't get shared because it's not that great. So do put up what you have that's good, your best stuff. And as you get better stuff, either take the other stuff down or chop it down to maybe get the very best little piece out of that and put that in your sizzle reel. Yeah. But your longer pieces that you have on your site, 3 to 5 minutes or 5 to 10 minutes unedited, that are solid. That's what you want to have up there. Because when you do start applying for some of these showcases or festivals or competitions, the first thing they'll probably say is send me a 90-second clip, or send me a 3-minute clip, or send me a 5. So if you have those already and you have them up on your YouTube channel or whatever, and they have 500 likes or 1,000 likes, and this is a competition for beginners, and they look at across the board, Chester's got 1,000 people that like this video. We can't even get videos from these other 6 guys. Well, Chester's in for sure. Chester's a little bit ahead of the game.
That's a good point.
Don't, if it's not good, it'll be obvious after a while. Nobody shares it or whatever. You can take it down, and you can bounce some ideas off of me, obviously. But what I've seen that you have, your Clean Comedy Challenge sets and some of the stuff from the Grinder House, it's definitely worth putting up and getting some reaction to.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah, and I do think you want to have the longer pieces. And then if you're not comfortable putting your full 20 or 30 minutes up there or whatever your longest set is, you can always make it a private video. So when somebody asks you for it, you just give them the access to it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Just do kind of one of those unlisted kind of things.
Yeah. Because until YouTube, at some point, they'll probably crash and burn and everything will be deleted accidentally or something. Or, or they'll start saying, hey, we're storing a lot of stuff. It's $5 a month, no matter who you are, whatever it is. Use it as a backup drive, have it on there, make them unlisted until you need them, and then put them, live or what have you.
That's a good point. You mentioned a sizzle reel. For those people out there who don't know what that is, maybe even like myself, like I have an idea what a sizzle reel. I know what an acting sizzle reel is. So is that the same thing for a comedy sizzle reel? It's just much smaller, just like a quick laugh.
Most comedy club bookers will want to see the unedited set. But when you're pitching yourself to corporate events or things outside of the comedy club, what they'll want to see is you doing jokes in a venue similar to what they're going to book you in. So, and I always recommend, if you're clean anyway, you should look at doing corporate events and fundraisers and things where they want clean comics a lot of times.
Yeah.
But, a sizzle reel from that would be, it might show you on stage at a club for 15, 20 seconds till you get a big laugh or whatever. And then it cuts to you in a, and to be honest, when you first start, it's going to be like a high school gym or a high school theater where they're doing a fundraiser, and you're on a stage at least. And then, but you have it from the back of the room where they see, hey, there's 300 people watching Chester do his thing. And then maybe, if you have those opportunities, I would set up 2 cameras, one a really wide shot like that, and another one, waist up so that you can cut to it. So people can see, oh, he's in a venue of 300 people and here's the joke. And you have some of those. So when people start to hire you, they're like, oh, he's done this before. And you may have volunteered to be in front of those 300 people.
Right.
They don't necessarily know that, but they're seeing you in the space where they would put you. And then as you get better and better and bigger opportunities, you're doing ballrooms at Opryland or whatever, or bigger theaters, you want to upgrade those clips and put those in there. But that whole sizzle reel would be 3 to 5 minutes, and it would just show you doing your thing in multiple venues, dressed the way that they would hire you, so a little bit better than a comedy club perhaps.
Yeah.
But that's what they're looking at, and they're looking at five or six comics probably before they find one that they really like.
So when we're talking about what they're looking at, let's talk about that for just a second, because let's shift around to the website then. I've got chesterg.com, and you said you had a chance to look at it, but in general, like, you don't even have to refer to that, but just in general, what are some do's and don'ts if you're new and emerging? Like, I'm not Rick Roberts, Mayberry man, I'm not a movie star kind of person, so you have a phenomenal website. I don't know who's doing that work for you, but it looks really great. It's sharp. What do you do if you're in my shoes though?
Well, I did look at your site, and it looks sharp. It's crisp. It's not cluttered. It has plenty of things. Like me, that's probably my biggest challenge is, man, I do a lot of different things. But everything comes out of communicating and stand up. That's right. The driver of everything. So it's a matter of breaking it into searchable sections for people when they Google search. So, each page you have, you want to have in the URL for that page what there could be searching. So down the road, when you want to run ads to those pages, those specific spots on your website, it looks right to Google. It's got the keywords in there that you're trying to get people to search. You're not saying clean stand-up comedy and they're going to an acting page,
Yes. Yeah.
So that's one thing, is you want to make sure all your URL and your metadata and all that kind of stuff checks out for Google. You want to make sure it loads quickly and all that stuff on mobile, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think put yourself in maybe 2 or 3 headspaces. People talk about having an avatar, like, this is who hires me. It's a specific avatar. And I hate that term
Right.
because I could show you the 100 people that booked me on my last 100 shows, and there's not much similarity between them. I mean, it could be a college student all the way up to a 90-year-old booking me for something, to a TV executive. There's not really one specific. You're the specific thing they're looking for. You'll find commonalities down the road, but you want to think about, what if somebody lands on my website, what is their first question? And so for mine, it is, what exactly does he do? Because if they landed on my old website, they saw too many things. They're like, I don't know if this guy's a serious speaker or a comedian. So I had to make it very clear on the landing page what I do, and then point them, here's the 3 things I mainly do. And so you've done that on your website with your tabs to kind of give an exact thing. Another thing you might do, and that I'm thinking of doing, is just having a welcome video that plays. It's less than a minute, that loads quickly.
Oh yeah.
And I've seen comics do this before. And I think I may have done it on an earlier website, where it's just, hey, it's Rick Roberts. Thanks for visiting the website. I do several things. I act, I do stand-up comedy, and I do motivational speaking. So here's where you go for that, this and that. But it all comes from a place of fun. So if you're looking for a fun speaker, if you're looking for an engaging actor, if you're looking for a stand-up comic that's going to keep it clean, that's me. Gotcha. So they understand quickly the answer to that main question.
Yeah. And you're the one clarifying it for them. So that's kind of a cool. I like that.
Yeah. Well, I think, because there's definitely the assumption, and I think it's a true one, that people need to know, like, and trust you before they buy something from you. Right. Or hire you for a comedy show. So your show is the thing they're buying. So if you've already helped them out, they just land on your website and you've already said, hey, welcome. You've already made contact a little bit. They see your face, they hear the way you're talking, they see your demeanor. They can connect with that quicker than just an image on a page.
Right. Yeah, true.
So
True.
The other thing I'll say about your website is every page in the footer should have a contact form. There should be a continuous contact form. So no matter what page they land on, there's always an opportunity for them to put their information in. It might not be a full-blown contact form. It might be just, hey, to get Chester to respond to your inquiry, type this in here and just give them a couple of quick things.
That's a good word. On every page, make sure they have an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, because, it's just the statistics that I saw when I had my website redone is that people might click 2 pages and then they're gone. And they, an average person who just stumbles on your website, if they spend a minute, it's a surprise. So if they spend a minute and they can't figure out how to contact you, then you've lost. So you want, very clearly your email and your phone number on every page, but then a way for them to give you more information about what they're searching for on the bottom. And then then also I would have a dedicated contact tab.
Yes.
So that if they look at just a tab, they know exactly they can go there, and it's a little bit more information. They might put in the size of the audience. I ask them what their budget range is. Will you cover travel costs? So it makes them think about that. And then for me, it's a drop down menu, and you should probably have one too. Are you looking for a comedy show? Are you looking for a host? Are you looking for an acting or a commercial actor or a movie?
Yeah.
Just so they feel like, okay, he knows who I am. I'm one of these people. They just if they click other 3 times, they're probably like, this guy he never wants to connect with me. But if they're on there, it's a better chance.
Yeah. Man, I know that you've been traveling all over the place. I'm just so proud of you. I'm glad that we connected several years ago, but I've been talking about, kind of how I feel like I've, been trying to grow through all this, but watching you really is really inspirational and encouraging, Rick. I'm really proud anytime people who are committed to clean content are getting opportunities and getting promoted and stuff. That's really, really cool.
Well, I appreciate that. And same back to you. Like when I see people, I get quite a few emails from people. Hey man, can I set up a coaching call? And I just fire back with one email, like, where are you at in your comedy career? And they never even respond to that.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad we didn't set up the coaching call because they don't know what they're talking about yet,
Right.
But you've taken every opportunity that's been offered and created the ones that weren't sitting there. And so I'm always extra excited to work with anybody who's going after it. And it really helps that I like your comedy. Like I definitely can coach people if their comedy is solid, but maybe it's not my cup of tea, but I can help them make it better. But it's fun when we sit there and laugh as we're coming up with stuff.
Oh, I really enjoy that a lot. I mean, you give knowledgeable sound advice, but we have a good time doing it too. So it
always goes by really fast.
Yeah, it really does. Hey, I got to tell you, I know we probably need to wrap up, but I got to tell you, so this weekend, my wife was out of town and my son was working and I was just bored. And so I was literally, I hear in the back of my mind, you and another guy saying, you go out and find those opportunities, create whatever you got to do. And I was driving down the road and I saw these big signs that said BIGFOOT Fest, 9 to 4. So, okay, I literally drove over to Walmart, bought a selfie stick, okay, and drove over to BIGFOOT Fest, got a ticket, and I recorded it. I interviewed people. I was just like I had like at my own show. I did it like Food Network or TLC, whatever. I had an absolute blast. It's amazing when you're walking around and you just, you look like you know what you're doing and you're holding the recorder, that people will open up and start sharing things. I can't wait to have a writing session with you on some of the stuff from BIGFOOT Fest.
That's hilarious. That is great, man. And, I'm already thinking, does Bigfoot know what time he's supposed to show up between 9 and 4 and just different things,
Exactly.
But yeah,
there were a ton of Sasquatches there too. I got to tell you, I love to say that word too, Sasquatch.
It's a great word. That's hilarious. Yeah. I can't wait to work on that.
Yeah,
but and it's fun too. I mean, you're right. Why not break out the phone and do some recording? And that's one thing I wanted to say earlier when you were talking about what if you don't have a lot of video of you on stage?
Yeah.
You off stage being funny is just as useful sometimes early on so people can see your personality. Certainly for your acting stuff. If they see you being interactive with somebody and you're coming off the top of your head with questions and the way you follow up, they know it's spur of the moment. Then I think if I was looking at somebody for an acting job, I'm like, this guy's he's on the ball, man. He's thinking on his feet. I could use this guy.
Yeah. In my case, I was honest. I truly was just bored, and I thought, what, I'm going to go see what happens. So I've been editing it. I'm gonna like put it up on YouTube or something. It's going to be all about BIGFOOT Fest.
That's cool. Well, man, Chester, thanks for joining us. And if they want to go check out your website again, it's chesterg.com, correct?
That's it. Yeah.
So you can see who I was just talking to here for the podcast, and make sure when you're on there. If he's got an email list, subscribe to it. If he's got some socials, like and follow Chester so you can see what he's up to.
Hey, Rick, thank you so much. I appreciate you. We'll chat soon.
All right. Thanks, sir.
Catch you later. See ya. Bye.
Hope you enjoyed that episode with Chester Goad. Very fun guy, and I think you want to check out his website. It's chesterg.com. BIGFOOT.com to learn more about his acting and his stand-up comedy. That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks again to Bill Conger for being our Patreon sponsor for this episode. And again, welcome to Mark Staggs for joining the Club 52 Patreon support team. Keep an eye out in your email the next couple of days. You'll see an invitation to a quarterly Zoom hangout where we're going to tackle some top topics and big news and whatever challenges you have as a new or established performer. That's coming up very soon. All right. Thanks again, everybody. Take care. Stay safe. Stay funny.
Thanks for listening to the School of Laughs podcast. If you'd like to hear more School of Laughs podcasts, you can